the biggest misconception is that you can kind of just put photo and video, just short form, long form, just any form of your digital presence that you can push that to the side. Because 2025 and beyond, and I would argue even before that, like that just can't be a thought. Like you need to put a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of thought into how you're showing up online.
We help people with ideas get them to revenue.
Welcome to the Pitch to Product podcast. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Norm.
And on today's episode, we're joined by Alex, the man who makes all the magic happen. And he's going to be talking about how important it is for photo and video content in your product.
Let's get into it.
Thanks for having me, guys. Let's do it.
Of course. Tell us how you actually got involved and started into kind of photo and video.
Sure. So I always think back to, I think it was 2013 or 2014 when GoPro became huge. I'm sure you guys remember growing up, and you know, everyone knows what a GoPro is, little small POV kind of style videos. And there had never really been anything like it. Like there's a huge barrier to entry with photo and video. You had to spend all this money, get a big camera, and it was a lot. And then GoPro came out and it was like tiny camera, changed the market. You know, they have people ripping down mountains, snowboarding, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about with you, Norm. But that was kind of what got me into it was GoPro. They had these people are strapping cameras to their heads and chest mounts, and you're seeing these crazy POV videos that you've never seen before.
I kind of simplified it in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, there was a huge barrier to entry. The cameras that we're filming with right now are, you know, kind of big, and, you know, they obviously have their strengths, but they're kind of big and clunky, and GoPro kind of changed the game when they started. And that was what really got me interested, and I got one and I just fell in love with it. I would just make little videos, take some photos of just really anything, playing around with transitions and editing.
And the editing too is also simplified, you know, because they really just brought it down and just made it easy for the user that's just trying to get into video editing for the first time.
Yeah, and I mean, again, GoPro did that, and now you look at today and it's every social media platform has their own editor inside. Like I know Instagram just came out with, I think it's called Edits, and it started with CapCut, and TikTok has their own editing. And again, just the barrier to entry just keeps getting lower and lower, which is awesome because it's opening up the floor for way more creativity. And yeah, for me, that start was GoPro. You have this little camera, you're kind of messing around, doing some magic tricks, I guess, with the editing of, you know, you can stop the video and start it again here, and maybe you're across the frame or something like that. I'm trying to I think I was baffled by my you know, you'd reverse a video. I'm like wearing a jacket, and then you'd let it drop off you, and then you'd reverse it, and you just see the jacket kind of coming off the floor and putting it on. I thought that was the coolest thing ever at the
first time you really get the magic going.
Exactly. So yeah, that was kind of what got me into it. And then, you know, after working a nice minimum wage job, working retail, I put some money aside and saved up and bought myself a little Sony mirrorless camera. That was the first upgrade from the GoPro. And yeah, just always loved shooting, just landscape, architecture. Love shooting cars still.
Well, it's really cool. I mean, you take a look at just your Instagram, right?
I was just going to say.
Yeah, you're always taking photographs of just your surroundings, your environment. It's a lot different than, you know, somebody like for me, right? I loved filming, you know, action sports with snowboarding, but I never kind of grew out of editing off of my phone. I love editing off of my phone, but for someone like you really stuck to and working your way up into making it a profession. Which is really cool.
No, I appreciate it. And I think, again, too, especially in, you know, we'll talk about this a little more today, but in today's day and age, it's like volume. So the fact, I actually can see that as a weakness sometimes of me, that I tend to lean towards these more like polished kind of things, because the phone stuff, you know, you need volume.
Totally.
And phone, again, I'm going to say barrier to entry 100 times in this video, but it just lowers the barrier to entry of actually getting a video out and doing something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always, I think part of too what brought me into it is just kind of sharing your perspective and like, this is how I see these things, and like I see the light coming in, and this is how I frame it, and I love doing that, and I love kind of sharing that with people. And I think that translated really well to kind of product photography and
100%.
videography.
But I think you probably have figured this out as you've gone through your career, is that just business owners in general don't really appreciate video content in the way that I know that, I appreciate it, Aaron appreciates. We know how effective it can be, in the marketplace as a whole. So, I mean, I just want to get a good understanding for what do you think the biggest misconception is between, business owners and visual content as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think you already touched upon it, and it's just how important it is. I think, maybe in the last few years, it's the case for that has been built of like, okay, this is really important, but you still had some people like, I get it. There's some buzz around it. The social media is a thing right now. TikTok's going crazy, short form, whatever. Like, I get it, but it's not like I need to do that. I think in the last few years, that was a pretty common frame.
Yeah.
And now I think even those people that were kind of neglecting it, they just see the benefits, and they see these people that, if you have really good content, you can just make your business however many times better with, again, just content. You have short form, you have your carousels. And I think showing up authentically on these different platforms, I actually heard a good analogy the other day about showing up differently on different social media platforms where, Aaron, for example, you are here, you're an idea consultant. At home, you're a son, you're a brother, and then to your friends, you're a friend, but you're still Aaron. But you're gonna approach a colleague differently than you're gonna approach your brother or your sister or your mom or your cousin. And that was the analogy I heard of like how you show up authentically on these different platforms. LinkedIn is a little more polished. LinkedIn's a little more professional. You're going to show up differently on LinkedIn than you are for Instagram or Twitter, which now X. But yeah, I think it's just showing up in all these places. And again, the biggest misconception is that you don't need to focus on your content and how you're portrayed. And again, now I think the evidence is there, and people are putting more of an emphasis on it, which is great as someone who loves videos, because there's more of an emphasis on something that I personally love to do, and it's only going to keep growing. I mean, we'll see the direction that things go, because short form wasn't a thing until I want to say Vine started short form, maybe. God, at this point, 10 years ago, I hope. Yeah, it's been a little while.
It's like content creators as a whole, right? And now they are incredibly appreciated.
Oh yeah.
Right? So these big conglomerate, these big businesses are now utilizing these, big influencers. It used to be micro influencers that grew their accounts, and now all of a sudden, it's a profession, which is incredible.
Yeah, it is insane. And I think talking to influencers too, maybe why that's so successful and why a lot of business owners, and especially product business owners, should consider incorporating influencers, is because people want to see people and they want to hear from people.
Yeah.
I can only do so much in an image and make it look so great and have it be in the right scenario, perfect lighting, you get a good edit on it, you color grade it perfectly. That can only go so far. But you can, for everyone at home, you can think about when you're on Amazon or you're going to buy any product, you check out the reviews, like, okay, this looks nice. Kind of what are people saying about this? What are, maybe where does this fall short? What are things I consider? should consider before buying, because people want to hear from peers and they want to hear from fellow buyers. So, and that's where, again, so there's always been this, okay, I want to hear what's happened previously. How have other people dealt with this? With just about anything, let alone, I mean, obviously for products, but for most things, people want to, you know, if you're going to go do zip lining, you want to hear and make sure that the person before you didn't fly off the zip line, something like that. Like you need some like social proof. So it's the same thing with a product, and it's the same thing with an influencer. When you have this more raw feeling video, it's not so highly produced, and someone's talking about the product, you know, here's how I use it, and then they show themselves using it, they talk about it. You're kind of bridging that gap of people needing that social proof and getting those reviews, and it's just more digestible. And again, we've seen it with influencers, and I think that's a huge consideration for business owners in the world, in today's digital world, that is, by the way, ever changing, because, you know, we're talking about short form, and then YouTube, like there's long form. People are doing podcasts. We're doing a podcast right now. Like it's a huge thing too. But, and it's just like numbers. I mean, you know, we do this podcast, we'll turn it into some shorts, we'll have some behind the scenes. Like it's just
more like long form content turns into short form content, and you have the ability to really, really utilize that.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, that's how I've found a lot of podcasts that I listen to. I'll see like a clip and it intrigues you. And, you know, from, say, this person's been building up their podcast for years, and I see a 5-second clip, and that, you know, they could have put out hundreds of podcasts, and this one short form clip that finds its way on my algorithm resonates with me. I click on it, and now I'm a fan of the podcast. And then now you have your notifications on, and it all came from a short clip. So
Totally.
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, again, we'll see how things kind of change in the future, but yeah, and I feel like we riffed a little bit, but I think long-winded answer is of what the biggest misconception is, that you can kind of just put photo and video, just short form, long form, just any form of your digital presence, that you can push that to the side, because 2025 and beyond, and I would argue even before that, like that just can't be a thought. Like you need to put a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of thought into how you're showing up online.
Yeah, I definitely think that the UGC content is making a big, maybe, I don't know if comeback's the right word, but people definitely like to see. There was a wave, I think, of where everything was like hyper polished and looked super, super professional, but it wasn't authentic, right? It was kind of lacking that like human side of it, right? And then because those Vine videos that are just like not good quality, but they have like 50 million views, are super, super iconic. It's always the low quality videos that get like a ton of views and a ton of traction. And I think the same thing is true in product as well, right? When they're seeing, whether it's like the CEO, like me starting my own telebrand, or someone just giving a review on TikTok Shop, because those reviews can't be faked. You know, you like TikTok is extremely, extremely strict about that. Whereas like you can import reviews on your website. You can't do that on TikTok.
Right.
And Amazon too is very strict about that as well. I mean, have you seen a rise in users in that UGC content kind of thing versus the more polished look?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think you hit the nail on the head there with, is that the right, hit the nail on the head?
The nail on the head, yep.
Hit the hammer on the hit the nail on the
hammer
head?
on the nail.
Actually, that's a good question.
I don't know.
Nail on the head, obviously.
Nail on the head.
You know.
Hammer
But
the
the nail already has that, so the hammer would be hitting the nail, right? The hammer on the
You know what I feel like
the
we
head
are?
of the nail is the top of the nail.
Yeah, I know.
This feels like the you guys seen it's like a screenshot of a YouTube video, and it's these kids that can't be older than like 10, and it's the Gretham City. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
The three kids going fishing?
No, that's a good one though. I have seen that.
Yeah.
Good segue of that's that's genuine, like, and everyone in the comments is like, I'm glad these kids are like out doing their thing and they're fishing, and it's like, it's not super polished. It's all iPhone stuff, and they go out and they're just fishing and they're talking about their day, and they're like, Brandon caught this little fish, and it's like the tiniest fish you've ever seen, and everyone's like, let's go.
In their
Like
hand.
these guys, yeah. It's like, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, things go in flows, and we've, it's been, sometimes you have the unpolished, you have Vine, and then Instagram becomes like super polished, and people almost want to break from it, of like, this is like too much. Like, yeah, it's not authentic. Like, there's just too much going on here. There's too much production.
Do you find that difficult for just you in general? Because I know that you're, more of a polished guy. Is it a difficult choice to go back and forth?
Yeah, I think that's where I have a lot of room for growth, is kind of pushing that perfectionism in me aside and saying, this doesn't need to be. And there's
Uniform, right?
exactly, and there's a time and a place, and we'll talk about more like what we do for clients, like when we build out a website, like for sure that needs to be more thought through. Who's going to be on camera, your whole like pre-production, where's it going to be, how are we going to shoot it, what's the editing style, color grade, lighting, like all that fun stuff that I really love and that a lot of creatives love. So there's a time for that, but then again, especially on like social, these more like unpolished things, just need to make room for them. And again, that's hand up. I need to work on it, because I do like giving things a proper treatment. And yeah, I think it can be hard when you're kind of used to fleshing out ideas, thinking it through, shooting it properly, editing it properly, and it takes, a lot more time than I'm just gonna fire up one light and turn on my selfie camera on my iPhone and talk to camera.
I think there's like something to be said of just finding your brand, finding your element as you go, because like it is difficult to grow a following when you're just so focused on everything looking good. But along the way, you end up just finding your brand. You end up finding not just who you are, but also what the company stands for.
Yeah.
The product stands for. So I think it's incredibly important to really take a look at just building an audience, because for me, like, I still grow, my TikTok account. It's not something I truly love doing. I'm into it. In the winter, I do this snowboarding content, and I really, really like it, and it's fun, right? But bottom line is, I know, my day job is way more important, right? So that's where I put all my focus and all my energy into. But there is something we said of just posting videos when you get them, because a hook is so important, right? That's what I've really found, is getting people engaged. And there's also something we said to getting your audience engaged as well, replying to comments through video. That is something that I found that really grew my account. But bottom line is, I just figured out my brand along the way. I figured out what it stood for, and then everything started to work itself out. So I think there is something to be said for just posting content as it comes in, or you have, an idea, just to get it out there, because eventually the brand will find you.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you brought that up, Norm, because there's definitely like something could be said for, because a lot of creators will just say, if you're new to social media, post, and just get it out there. It doesn't matter. This is your first 6 months to getting like comfortable in front of the camera, right? Whether you're starting like a brand, like you want to be an influencer, or you're like creating a product, right? The other side of the coin is like, I know this is an example, but like a Mr. Beast, or like another channel like that, where they're super, they have like a team of editors, right? And then they'll post one video a month, maybe one video every 2 weeks, but it'll get 10 million, 50 million, 100 million views. Where do you strike the balance between like posting all the time and then just like creating like such densely packed there's quite there's power in both, but where do you strike that balance?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of just looking at, taking a step back, looking at, okay, am I a personality on Instagram? Am I selling a product? And just kind of asking yourself these like deeper questions of what am I trying to accomplish? And, so let's say obviously for our clients, you're building a brand new product and you had this issue, you found your solution to it. We helped you bring that to fruition. And now I need to, your goal is you know that you have this problem, you know that other people have this problem, and you made the solution. So you want to get this out there and help people solve that problem that you went through and you solved. So, okay, if that's my overarching, that's my bird's eye view, that's what's going on. Then you just break that down into smaller pieces. Okay, I need to make it so people know exactly what that problem is and exactly how my product solves that problem. And I'm the founder. Here's me talking about how I, had this problem and how I figured it out, and kind of asking yourself these more overarching questions, and then just slowly going down and down of, okay, I have a golf brand. Like we can use Clock It Golf for an example. Clock It Golf, you screw a, I don't know, a skewer. I don't think that's the,
It's a corkscrew.
You corkscrew this pole into the ground, and then you have, think of like tetherball, where the ball just spins around the top. You have that, and you have a string attached to a golf ball, and you can practice your drive, but I can do it in my backyard and not nuke 100 golf balls into my backyard.
Or have to go to the driving range.
I don't have to go to the range.
Yeah.
I don't have to pay for my neighbor's window. Like you got a few options there.
It's gonna stay tied to the string.
Exactly. So, but then from there, so maybe my issue was, I have a horrible golf swing, and that might not be hypothetical. I don't know. Well, we won't disclose if that's, we won't talk about my golf swing.
We'll check that out later.
Oh, yeah. But so hypothetically, of course, if my swing was bad and I couldn't make it to a range as much as I wanted to, and I don't have a range in my backyard or something, but I just want to practice here and there, I need to figure out a solution to that. So I make Clock It Golf, and now, okay, I need to get it out there, so I need to show people this. And so I'm going to make short form content, and I'm going to, consider my hooks, because like you said, the hook is the most important thing. And again, for everyone watching, like I want you to think about, or you can go on Instagram right now and you can see that, just see your own tendencies, see what you stick with, and like what you just scroll right past. Because a lot of times, and I think that gap of the first few seconds is closing, but it's like a split second now.
Oh, yeah.
You need to be like, you need a zoom in, you need like a riser, like this sound effect, like you need all these things to kind of pull people in. And so, I'd figure out, back to my overarching questions of, what is this problem that I'm trying to solve? How are people going to resonate with this? And maybe that first shot is like an awful golf swing, or it's like a split second of the swing, and then you have a ball like going through a window, and that's like, you see that and you're like, whoa. And then maybe I'm talking about, I'm looking at the camera and I'm like, my golf swing sucks, so I made this. Right. And so it's like, again, it comes down to, what are you trying to accomplish, breaking that down, and then utilizing your different tools for whatever that is. And that example of that short form video I gave, anyone can do that. Not everyone can do a Mr. Beast. He has a team of 50 people, like, but there is certain, I mean, again, like looking at the podcast that we're doing right now, like we have a little bit of a team, and we're able to build this out a little more. So it's, and that aligns with our goals with our Pitch to Product podcast, our goals with 52 Launch. And so it's looking at it in that light of what am I trying to accomplish? How, what tools do I have? And then how am I going to utilize these tools to get me there?
So ultimately, when you take a look at a product, is that what's going through your mind when you go to shoot it? Is that just, how am I going to get the audience captivated on why this product would solve their problem?
Yeah, I think that's usually a pretty good just generalized framework of, any business of these people have a problem, here's my solution, and now we got to sell it. So
Yeah.
that's definitely an approach for a lot of how we kind of go about things. Again, I'll use Clock It as an example for, a more fleshed out pre-production. Maybe we have a couple different locations that we're shooting at. Maybe it's, again, hopefully we're not actually breaking a window, but maybe we have an old window and that makes sense to do. So I'm gonna figure out, okay, if that's a pain point, and that, that might be an expensive short form piece of content for the materials, but figuring out where, you can imagine a Clock It golf that's going to be used differently. That's going to be used in a different scenario and by a different person than Lava Lunch, for example. We just did a Lava Lunch shoot last week for a back to school campaign. And again, you can think of the implications of who is going to be using a lunchbox for a back to school campaign versus a product that helps you with your golf swing. So I think that's a big starting point, is figuring out, and that again comes down to how is this going to resonate with the audience? Because if it's a back to school campaign and the three of us are on camera for the back to school campaign, people are going to be like, what? I mean, hopefully they don't think we're fathers, but it's not exactly going to resonate. Whereas we have like children on camera for this, like showing the, and we kind of emulated a cafeteria scene and had a mom making lunch for the kids, and then they grab it and run out the door.
Totally. You really have to trust like what you're seeing on video, right?
Yeah.
So like in speaking to that, how do you think, strong visual content impacts customers' decision to buy, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly imperative. I mean, I'm probably a little biased, but I know even, if you're shopping for something, production value just speaks volumes about the actual company itself. Like when I see something, say I found them from Instagram, I click on their site, I'm looking at it a bit. If they have, and again, there's a time and a place for your iPhone content, but if it's like iPhone photos and they're not, the white balance is off, the colors aren't consistent, and you can tell that they didn't just put a lot of thought into how they actually shot it. To me, that tells me that this company cuts corners, and because if they couldn't go out and even like hire a photographer or have someone in-house that knows how to make something look at least half decent for their product detail page, then I don't think you can really trust that actual product. Because if, again, I mean, we all know what goes into actually designing and manufacturing a product. Like you can't really cut corners.
No.
And if you do, it is very evident. So
speaks to that.
Exactly. And so if for that super meticulous process, again, you can't cut any corners, and there's a lot more that goes into that than I mean, I'm not gonna discredit like a good like photo and video shoot, but I'm not talking with manufacturers, I'm not designing it to be manufacturable. Like that's all a lot of back and forth and super in depth. Whereas again, if I see a company and I see like, and I'm swiping through the photos of the product and it's like iPhone stuff, and I think, okay, they're cutting corners on something that, especially in today's day and age, really isn't that hard to do.
Yeah.
You can hire a photographer, you can like people know what they're doing if you hire the right person. So if you're cutting corners on that, I think it's just a really bad look for the company. And in my mind, okay, if you're cutting corners on your actual media, I think you're cutting corners on design and production, and I can't really trust the actual product.
100%. And I think it's so easy because content is king, and it just floods the internet. Like everybody's like surrounded by it every single day, and a lot of it. And consumers are so good now at picking out like what is authentic
Mhm.
and what is not. It's like almost everyone's been trained, but like no one really talks about
Yeah,
it, you know. And it's
100%.
and you see it on I see it on my ads all the time on Instagram, and it's just like you could tell when something looks a little bit scammy, and like you see some like I've seen some other tallow brands, right? That's what I'm going into, and they're like decent Instagram pages. They got a couple thousand followers, but they're not quite the greatest photography. And there's just not really a story behind it,
Mhm.
right? And you don't gravitate towards that. You can really feel that as the consumer. Um, but I wanted to go back to something because I'm personally curious about it. Um, I want to hear your thoughts on like the difference between like an Instagram and a TikTok, right?
Mhm.
So what in terms of like a creator, right, or a product owner, like product based, they own their own company. What would be your strategy going into each platform in order to generate the most views
Mhm.
and obviously generate the most revenue?
Mhm. Yeah. So again, in all honesty, I need to work on my less polished game because I
Mm.
tend to lean towards these more higher production shoots for a website, for example. But um, having said that, I know that TikTok is a little less polished, and it's again to my analogy. Well, there, I'm coining that as my analogy. I'll have to figure out who I heard that from because that is not my analogy, but just about how you show up differently you show up differently as a son than you do as a coworker. You
Mhm.
show up differently as a friend. So um, it's again figuring out what are those nuances of that exact platform. And to my understanding, TikTok is a little less polished right now, and you might not even need a light. You can just use and it comes down to using your resources. You can stand next to a window, especially on a kind of overcast day, and have nice even light and use your phones are incredible now, so you could use your phone and get some pretty good content. But I think that stuff tends to do better on TikTok, and then Instagram, while not I think there is still a space for that like super polished stuff, but um I think it's a little more polished than TikTok of I think I look at TikTok as, maybe you're on FaceTime with one of your friends and you can think of the production of being on FaceTime with your friend. There is none. You are holding your camera and you're just talking to your friend. And I think TikTok feels a little more like intimate like that, like a friendship, any kind of relationship where you're just talking and it's unfiltered and it's raw. And that's again circling back to the UGC and the influencers. It just feels a little more authentic, like we've been saying. So I think that's how you kind of show up on TikTok. Think of that as a FaceTime with your friend. And then Instagram is a little more, and there's a wide range. People have their different approaches, but it's a little more polished than a TikTok like that. And then again, too, coming back to what am I trying to accomplish? And then how am I going to do that based on my tools and based on what platform I'm using? Um, so I think all those considerations can kind of help give you some clarity on, okay, this is how I'm going to show up authentically on TikTok, authentically on Instagram, um, LinkedIn, X, Snapchat Spotlight. I don't know if you guys have heard anything about Snapchat
No, let's dive into
Spotlight.
that. What is
Yeah,
that?
well, I was honestly hoping you guys had a little more insight on it, but I think to that though,
Yeah.
um, all these big social media companies are fighting for attention and they're all
Yeah.
trying to get people to be on their platform. And, you know, the three of us, I've kind of heard about Snapchat Spotlight.
Yeah.
You two haven't yet. And so
No.
that's, people are going there and they're trying to win attention there.
Yeah, of course.
Because of this exact
You
reason.
wanna
I've
be
only,
the first one in there, right?
Exactly.
That's like so much of the draw, right?
Mhm.
When TikTok said that they were closing shop, everybody was bouncing to all these different,
Mm-hmm.
short form content,
Yep.
trying to gain or try to bring their followers from, one platform to the other.
Mm-hmm.
But the benefits of, really going strong right out of the gate at a, new short form content application is that you can be, you have an advantage. You have
Yeah.
an advantage, because the algorithm favors the creators that are really going hard in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I completely attest to what you're saying here, because it's very, very difficult. Like in that moment when TikTok was going, all these creators were looking to the next best thing.
Yep. Yep. And yeah, it's kind of, I mean, it's hard to show up first somewhere, but
Yeah.
like a Snapchat Spotlight, if that's, again, I think it speaks volumes that I've like kind of heard about it.
Yeah.
And this is the first you two are hearing about it. Cause
Yeah.
I'm sure,
He's on the end.
well, cause it's, think about like a TikTok when
Yeah.
TikTok was first,
I know.
I think it was Musically when it came
Yeah.
out, and then they kind of transitioned, and you would hear TikTok, and oh yeah, I've heard about it, but
Yeah.
whatever. And then now TikTok is massive, so it's
It's the social media.
yeah, and so it's keeping an eye on these new platforms that come out, and again, showing up authentically, because you're going to show up differently on. I mean, I don't think we know what Snapchat Spotlight is, but I'm sure you're showing up there differently than you are on LinkedIn. And it depends what your brand is and where your audience is and what's going to resonate with people. And I think it's a lot of kind of just throwing up shots and seeing what sticks, and how you can, again, just show up authentically on each platform to grow your brand and just find your audience a little better, and yeah, just kind of get yourself out there.
What do you think the biggest mistakes are, for a brand that's, going to be posting on all these different platforms? Because it's hard. It's difficult for our clients right out of the gate when they're entrepreneurs. We bring them through the process. We get the product made. We get the product manufactured. They're ready to roll. Then all of a sudden they've got to post on a platform that they know nothing about. So kind of speak to me about, what do you think the biggest mistakes are right out of the gate?
Yeah. I think a big thing is just to what I said earlier, like, where does your product make sense in context, and not really veering off too much from that. Again, it's using your resources, but certain products don't make sense to shoot against a brick wall. Like, I think, yeah, a big thing is just being intentional with the content that you're doing and trying to figure out what the goal of that specific piece of content is. And again, having it be cohesive with your brand, this kind of brand world or brand universe that you start to build out. And I love kind of like building that out for people. And, they have this product, but maybe they don't know exactly what best light to portray it in. Figurative light, obviously.
Yeah.
The literal light as well. How are we gonna light this actual product? But
like something, like the kayak that we did, not too long ago. You went down to Florida, is that correct?
Yep.
Last year, and you actually really got to shoot firsthand with these people. Kind of talk to me about what that experience was like, because obviously that's a very niche product. So, I know that there was, all sorts of different, ways that you could have done it, but, you take a look at it online, it was really excellently done.
Yeah, appreciate it. And I think that's a great example. I'm glad you brought that one up, because, this is a more premium product, and it's a modular paddleboard and kayak. So, you can kind of combine these two things, and your only options were a huge 10 to 12 foot long kayak or paddleboard, or a blow up stand up paddleboard. And, they kind of saw a gap in the market there and went for it. And, again, it's more like a premium product. So it's it's kind of accumulating all these different, like, where your audience is. Again, is this like because there is a time and a place for, kind of cheaper quality things or things that you're going to replace. Like, there is a time and a place for that. And there's a time and a place and an audience for more luxury, more well-built things. And that was the category that this specific product fell under. So, you know, kind of looking at all that. Okay, so who is going to be on a stand-up paddleboard? Who's going to be on a kayak? And you look at these different demographics, and we could have brought it to a lake up in New Hampshire or something like that and shot it like more like a woodsy lake house kind of vibe, which for a certain kayak that makes sense. For this product, this was a more like, again, kind of premium feel, different demographic. And for us, what made sense was to shoot that like Key Biscayne, like Miami. Like, it's going to be like
the cityscape behind
exactly.
it.
It's like it's a more high-end feel. It's a very clean, modular, angular board, looked very cool. And, we're kind of playing off that. We're playing off the price point and all these things that make the board what it is. And again, could we have gotten great looking content at a lake house? For sure. But for this specific product, just bringing in all those things about the brand, and then how do we build out this brand universe? Like, for that shoot, Miami made sense. So we brought it there. And then this was another one where, and I think a lot of brand owners should consider, especially for a website, just hiring models, because that was something that we did for this shoot. And because people want to see other people again, and they want to see people that they can envision. Okay, this is, they can envision themselves in that scenario. So so we went in and we're particular about what kind of vibe that these people that are going to be on camera, what kind of vibe that they give off. And again, it's this, like, lack of a better term, kind of like bougie, Miami, like maybe Pilates instructor, like gym bro, like finance entrepreneur guy. I don't know, like, because that's kind of the, I hope
the audience.
I hope I
That's the
didn't offend
audience.
anyone with my terminology there, but yeah, that is like, that's the audience. And so we need to be careful of who we select for that and make sure that they're on camera and it's just portrayed in the right light. So for that specific product, that's what made sense. That was the decision we went with. But again, you can imagine a lava lunch, for example. I probably wouldn't bring a lava lunch out into the water in Miami at Key Biscayne, because that's just again,
just silly.
It just doesn't. Yeah, that just doesn't make sense. Like, we want to. We have different demographics, but like for a back to school, again, like, you're going to be in a kitchen. Mom's going to be making the food. She's going to be putting it in the lava lunch. And it's really important to make those decisions and kind of build out the brand. So I think that's a huge mistake that people make, is kind of overcomplicating or just doing too many spots that don't make sense. Do you
like traveling for shoots?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's awesome.
Part of it. That's part of the job.
Yeah, it's. I mean, that trip specifically probably shaved a couple of years off my life.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And not even, you hear Miami, and you probably have some implications of why it would shave off a few years of my life. And some of my friends are like, "Did you go to 11? Like, how was this club?" And there was no time to like let the hair down. Like, we were working the entire.
The hair was up the entire time.
Yeah, I think I had a bun at that point too, so the hair was literally up. But it was just like a 13-hour day, 17-hour day, 15-hour day, and then we got out of there. And it was like, and that's you know, you again, you look at their website, you look at the media, and it looks incredible. And
Were they located in Florida? So
no,
you just met them there.
so we had a few meetings with them and kind of talked about different locations of where we were gonna go.
Okay.
And then we landed on Miami, made the most sense, so we went with that. But again, all that work, it's like you kind of see these polished images, and you know, it's great to see those.
Right.
And a lot of the times, you know, I see these, whether it's a product detail page image that just looks super nice. I just know like the work that can go into it. But again, it's what's necessary to kind of build out this cohesive branding. So yeah, that one was awesome and loved doing that. And again, you have these kind of final polished images. I'll when we're editing this, we'll make sure to throw this one photo up. But you see this, we had a GoPro dome, and it's kind of like a half and half shot, and you can see you see the model on the board, and she's paddling. And one of my favorite images that I've ever taken. It's awesome. And when you're looking at it, you're like, oh, it's a cool image. But like, you know, what you don't see, and I wish we had the behind the scenes of it, but I'm kind of like treading with 3 limbs, and I have the GoPro in the other hand, and you're like, you know, I'm like treading, get it set up, and then you're like slowly going down. Click, and then you're like treading, and it's like I'm fighting for my life in this bay, and like all you see is like a cool photo. So yeah, it makes you appreciate like what goes into a lot of these images and videos. But again, probably long-winded answer of just not overcomplicating what you're going to have on camera and where your location is, and kind of sticking to a similar brand like vibe and making sure you don't veer off from that too much. So
Well, Alex, it was absolutely a pleasure to have you on talking all things video content, different strategies for the social media platforms. And it was an absolute pleasure to have you on, and hope you have you on again sometime soon.
yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me, guys. Pleasure's all mine.
We hope you enjoyed watching this podcast as much as we enjoyed filming it. If you want to learn more about 52 Launch, click these videos here. Don't forget to subscribe to the Pitch to Product podcast. And if you have a product idea, head to the show notes, click the link to 52launch.com, and book a free consultation with us.